think you're an empath? Think again. That word empath has been romanticized, sanitized, diluted into something sweet and gentle. A person who feels deeply, who listens, who cares. But what if I told you that the truth is far darker? What if being an empath isn't just about sensitivity, but about possession, about carrying what was never yours? Empaths are not just emotional. They are conduits, lightning rods, psychic vessels. And that's not poetry. That's psychology. Depth psychology. Jungian territory. Archetypal terrain. The true empath isn't the soft-hearted healer the internet loves to celebrate. The true empath is often unaware that their body, their nervous system, their very psyche, has become a container for the unprocessed trauma of others. Not just feelings, but shadows, wounds, griefs that do not belong to them. And unless they awaken to this truth, they are destined to drown in other people's storms. Let me tell you about a dream. A woman stands alone on a bridge above a deep, endless chasm. Her eyes are missing, not gouged, not closed simply, not there. In her hands, she trembles, reaching out into the void as if calling for help or pushing something away. Beneath her, from the abyss, come the voices, crying, moaning, wailing with agony. She cannot see them, but she feels them. She feels everything. And as she stands there, the wounds of those voices begin to appear on her skin. Blood trickling, flesh opening, pain erupting from within, though none of it is hers. That woman is the empath. And her blindness? It's not a flaw, it's a symbol. A blindness to where the suffering begins and where it ends. A loss of the boundary between self and other. This is not metaphor, this is archetype. This is the language of the unconscious. Carl Jung didn't define empaths as such, but he understood their function. He saw these patterns long before the word empath ever went viral. The healer, the wounded vessel, the sponge for collective suffering. He saw them in myth, in dreams, in the lives of those who carried sorrow that was not their own. When you are an unconscious empath, you become what Jung warned us about, a playground for disowned archetypes. You don't just feel others, you house the ghosts they won't face. You absorb their unloved parts. And when you can't tell the difference between what's yours and what's theirs, your soul begins to fray. This is not enlightenment, this is possession. And the culture? It feeds the illusion. You're so caring, they say. You're just highly sensitive. But that's not the full picture, is it? Because at night, you're exhausted. You feel heavy. You don't know why you're crying. You don't know why you're angry. You just know something has taken up residence in you, and it won't leave. We're not here to glorify empathy. We're here to confront it. To ask what happens when the empath has no tools, no awareness, no inner structure to hold the chaos that pours in. That's when the gift becomes the curse. That's when compassion becomes contamination. This isn't about judging your sensitivity, it's about respecting its power. Because if you do not understand what you are truly doing, what your psyche is participating in, then you are vulnerable. Not just emotionally, psychically, archetypally. You are a vessel, and vessels, when left unguarded, are filled by whatever reaches them first. So no, being an empath is not soft. It is not light. It is dangerous. It is sacred. It is alchemical. And like any powerful force, it demands consciousness. In the coming moments, we're going to explore what no one tells you. Not the influencers, not the self-help books. We're going to walk into the dark architecture beneath empathy. We're going to face the myths, the shadows, the ancient roles that shape the empath's path. You'll see why love sometimes breaks you, why helping others can hollow you out, why feeling too much is often not yours to feel. And most importantly, you'll learn what it means to transmute it, not absorb it, not hold it, but alchemize it. Because if you don't, you will lose yourself in the pain of others. So take a breath. We're opening the door now, and what lies behind it may not comfort you, but it will wake you up. So what then is an empath? Really, not through the lens of pop culture, not the Instagram definition, but through the raw, unfiltered vision of Carl Jung and the archetypal unconscious. In Jungian psychology, An empath is not simply someone who feels what others feel. That's far too shallow. A true empath is a conduit, a vessel, a channel through which the collective unconscious moves. They are not just emotionally attuned, they are psychically permeable. This isn't empathy as we've come to understand it. This is psychic participation, and it's not always voluntary. Jung believed that beneath the personal lies the archetypal, that our lives are not only shaped by experiences, but by ancient patterns, blueprints of the human psyche that repeat across time, culture, and bloodlines. These are archetypes, living energies, and the empath, whether they know it or not, is especially open to them. To put it plainly, the empath doesn't just feel another person's sadness. They absorb it, they carry it. They embody the unprocessed shadow that others refuse to face. Like a psychic sponge, they draw in what is left unspoken, unloved, unhealed. This is not a skill. It is a state of being, and it can be dangerous. Think of the myth of Chiron, the wounded healer. A being of immense wisdom and compassion, but one who could never heal his own wound. His pain became his gift, but also his prison. That's the empath, a person whose sensitivity gives them insight into the pain of the world, but whose own soul is often bleeding beneath the surface. Fairy tales knew this long before psychology did. The old stories are full of empaths in disguise. The girl who hears the cries of the animals, the boy who weeps when the trees are cut down, the healer who falls ill after curing another. These are not metaphors. They are psychic truths, wrapped in symbol, and Jung understood the cost. When someone's unconscious is full, when they carry grief, rage, shame they have not made conscious, it seeks a vessel. It seeks a place to land. If you are an empath without awareness, that place becomes you. You become the living altar where other people lay their pain. You'll find yourself angry for no reason, weeping at the wrong time, tired even after rest. You'll confuse your identity with the pain you've inherited. And worst of all, you won't know it's happening, because it doesn't come with flashing lights or warnings. It comes quietly, through love, through care, through connection. It enters the moment you let your energetic boundaries fall. This is what Jung meant when he spoke of the unconscious having no morality. It doesn't care about fairness. It moves where it can. And the empath, if unguarded, becomes its vessel. It's not evil. It's archetypal. This is the empath's cross to bear. They are not just emotionally aware. They are psychically open. And unless they learn to wield that openness with discernment, it becomes a burden. Jung never used the term empath, but he described them again and again, in dreams, in symbols, in his studies of myth and psyche. He saw them in those who bore the weight of the collective without understanding why. The healer who gets sick, the therapist who burns out, the partner who absorbs the dysfunction of the relationship until they forget who they are. These are not coincidences, they are patterns. So if you recognize yourself in this, understand, you are not weak, you are not broken, you are archetypal, you are carrying something ancient. But until you become conscious of it, you will not control it. It will control you. And that's the danger. An empath is not a saint. They are not a martyr. They are not here to carry the world's pain. They are here to transmute it. But that journey begins with knowing what it is you're really carrying. Not just emotions, but echoes, imprints, ghosts. And the question is, what part of you has been silently haunted without ever realizing it? Let's go deeper now into the part no one wants to talk about. What happens when empathy turns toxic? When the very trait that makes you kind, open, and compassionate becomes the reason you're falling apart. The unconscious empath doesn't walk through life feeling, they walk through life absorbing. They pick up sadness, grief, shame, rage. They internalize it without filters, without consent. And over time, they begin to confuse it with their own identity. They lose their emotional compass. Imagine this. You're crying, but you don't know why. You're anxious, but nothing in your life explains it. You walk into a room and leave feeling drained, heavy, confused. This isn't mood. It's merger. You're not just empathizing, you're merging. You are becoming the emotional terrain of everyone around you. Now imagine doing that every day, for years, without knowing it. That's what it means to be an unconscious empath. And the symptoms begin to show. Emotional dysregulation, chronic fatigue, spiritual exhaustion that no amount of rest seems to fix. You give, you hold, you command, yet you're crumbling inside. You fall in love with people who are broken, but not healing. You make it your mission to save them, to rescue them. You think it's compassion, but look closer. Are you really helping, or are you addicted to being needed? I once worked with a woman who cried every time she walked into my office. She didn't know why. The tears would start before she said a word. She believed she was grieving for her own pain. But slowly, through dream work and descent into her unconscious, we found the truth. She was carrying the grief of generations. Her mother, her grandmother, the lineage of women who had all been forbidden to cry. And now, she was crying for all of them. She was the only vessel left open. This is not metaphor. This is archetypal inheritance. And if you don't know how to discern it, you become a graveyard. A silent field where the wounds of others are laid to rest. Not healed, just stored. The empath becomes a container. But containers without boundaries do not hold. They collapse, they leak, and they rot. When you do not separate what is yours from what is theirs, your identity begins to erode. You wake up one day and no longer know who you are, where your pain ends and someone else's begins. That is not empathy. That is possession, and it's happening more often than you think. It's the mother who carries the emotional pain of her partner and calls it love. The friend who loses herself trying to fix everyone and ends up resenting them in silence. The therapist, the healer, the coach who burns out, not from doing too much, but from feeling too much that was never theirs to feel. Empathy without awareness becomes a curse. And the culture does not warn you. It praises you. It calls you selfless, angelic, a good person. But underneath that praise is a prison, a role you never asked for, a story you never wrote. And slowly, you begin to disappear into it. So let me ask you plainly, are these feelings really yours? Is this grief you're holding truly your own? Or are you carrying ghosts that were never meant to rest in you? This is the danger of the unconscious empath. They are porous, open, absorbing everything without filters. And over time, that openness becomes self-erasure. You become a mirror for everyone's pain, but no one sees your face. You are praised for your light, but inside, you're full of shadows you can't name. You become the emotional landfill of your environment, and the world is full of people desperate to unload what they refuse to face. Empaths make the perfect place to bury it, unless they wake up, unless they build the boundaries of self. Because here's the truth. You were not meant to carry all this. You were not born to be a sponge. You are not a sanctuary for the abandoned wounds of others. You are a self, a soul, a whole being. But until you choose to separate from what is not yours, you will continue to dissolve into the pain of the world. And one day, you'll wonder where you went. So ask yourself again, is this mine? Or is it a shadow, still lingering, looking for a host? Because the moment you name it, the moment you claim what is truly yours, you begin to return to yourself. And that, more than anything, is the beginning of healing. Now comes the turning point. If you've begun to recognize yourself in these patterns absorbing, merging, dissolving into the emotions of others, then you're already halfway through the transformation. Awareness is the threshold, but it is not the end. Carl Jung never told us to stop feeling. He never warned against depth or sensitivity. What he warned against was unconsciousness. He warned against becoming lost in the archetypes, possessed by them, unaware of the energies moving through us. To be an empath is not to be fragile. It is to be powerful, but only if that power is made conscious. Empathy, Jung might say, is not dissolution. It is not merging into everyone else's suffering. Empathy, in its higher form, is alchemy. It is the art of transmutation, of feeling without becoming, of witnessing without absorbing, of holding presence so rooted, so clear, that pain can move through you but not stay inside you. The empath must learn this. Otherwise, they remain the sponge, saturated, dripping, collapsing, under the weight of what was never theirs. But how do you stop being a sponge? It begins with discernment. The next time you feel a wave of emotion, sadness, anxiety, anger, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this mine? Not every ache inside you belongs to you. Not every thought is your voice. Some are echoes, residue, the psychic scent of someone else's shadow still clinging to your skin. Learn to ask, where did this begin? Did I feel this before they entered the room? Did it arise from within me through me? This is not just self-reflection. This is psychic hygiene. From here, we build boundaries, not walls, but membranes, energetic edges that let you remain open, but not empty. That let you care, without collapsing. Boundaries are not just spoken. They are embodied. They are felt. They live in how you breathe, how you respond, how you choose what to hold and what to release. And Jung gave us tools. Start with dreams. Keep a dream journal, not for interpretation, but for relationship. Jung believed that the unconscious speaks through symbol. Your psyche knows what it carries, and it will show you if you're willing to listen. When a storm brews inside, don't just endure it. Dialogue with it. Active imagination, as Jung taught, is a way to meet the parts of you that feel hijacked. Sit with them. Speak to them. Write from their voice. Ask, what are you trying to show me? And then listen, not for logic, but for meaning. This is where the archetypal empath begins to change, where the sponge becomes the alchemist. And here's the image to hold. A woman stands at the edge of a storm. Around her, the wind howls, the sky fractures, screams of pain and memory twist through the air like smoke. In her hands, she holds a bowl. It is full, overflowing with tears. Her own? Maybe. Or maybe not. She kneels. She places the bowl on the earth. And she says, not to the storm, but to herself, I feel you, but I am not you. And the storm begins to quiet. Not because she absorbed it, but because she stopped resisting her own center. This is your moment to kneel, to put down what was never yours to carry, to stop making yourself a home for the unspoken grief of others, to begin the slow, sacred work of becoming a vessel, not for pain, but for presence. Empathy does not mean you vanish. It does not mean you feel everything. It means you feel what is true, and you hold it wisely. You stop trying to fix. You stop trying to save. You stop bleeding so others can breathe. Instead, you witness. You reflect. You love with clarity, not sacrifice. This is not coldness. This is warmth with a spine. This is the empath, awakened. This is the empath, transformed. Let's pause now, not for silence, but for truth. I want to ask you something. Do you often find yourself falling in love with people who are deeply wounded, hoping your love might heal them? Do you feel utterly drained after helping someone, even though nothing dramatic seemed to happen? Have you ever felt that your acts of kindness were a quiet plea to be loved in return? These questions are not accusations. They are invitations to turn inward, to see yourself, not with shame, but with clarity. Because many empaths are not acting from pure compassion. They are acting from unconscious contracts. The need to be needed, the fear of being irrelevant, the silent hope that if they give enough, they'll finally be chosen. This is where compassion turns into control. It doesn't look like manipulation. It looks like overgiving. It looks like the friend who always says yes, even when exhausted. The partner who stays, not because it's healthy, but because they can't bear to abandon someone broken. The healer who can't rest until everyone around them is okay. But here's the truth. If your care comes with the silent expectation of being loved, seen, or validated, it's not compassion. It's an unconscious exchange, and that exchange will always leave you empty. Empaths often confuse merging with intimacy, but becoming someone else's emotional container is not love. Absorbing their suffering does not prove your worth. Giving everything does not guarantee you'll be held. You may say, "But I just want to help." And that may be true. But underneath that desire, ask yourself, is there a part of me that fears what I'll feel if I stop? Would silence reveal loneliness? Would saying no expose the fear that I'll be forgotten? This is the trickster nature of the unconscious. It dresses our survival strategies in the clothes of virtue. Helping becomes holiness. Saving becomes identity. But underneath the light, shadow remains. Jung warned us. The unconscious is not evil. It's simply wild. It plays roles through us until we wake up and see them. So let's wake up. Let's ask again. Is your giving truly freer? Is it a currency for connection? Do you help because it's needed or because you fear what happens if you don't? Have you built relationships around rescuing others, while your own needs quietly vanish? And this is where the real shift begins. When the empath stops performing goodness, when they begin to feel the difference between presence and possession, between caring and controlling, when they learn that love doesn't mean disappearing, that service doesn't mean self-erasure, that real compassion never requires you to bleed. And so, now I ask you to do something even braver. If any of this resonates, speak it. Say it out loud. Or write it. You've carried it long enough in silence. Leave a comment. Share what you felt. Name what you've realized. Because the moment you speak it, the archetype begins to loosen its grip. That's how you reclaim your story from unconscious pattern to conscious power. This isn't judgment. It's liberation. And it starts with one honest answer. Are you loving to love her, loving to be loved back? Are you helping to heal her, helping to be held? Are you giving from fullness or from the fear of emptiness? You already know. So speak it. Not for approval, but for freedom. There comes a moment in every empath's journey when something shifts. Not suddenly, not with fireworks, but quietly like a current changing beneath the surface. You stop absorbing. You stop merging. You stop disappearing into other people's pain. Instead, you begin to return to yourself, to your center, to the deep-rooted awareness that you were never meant to carry what was not yours. This is not the end of empathy. This is its awakening. You were once the sponge, soaked, saturated, silent. You thought your ability to feel everything made you whole, but now you see the truth. The goal was never to feel everything. It was to feel what is true and to stay anchored in it. You become like a mirror, still, clear, reflective. But this is not the kind of mirror that absorbs shadows. It's the kind that shows others what they've forgotten. Their strength, their sorrow, their sacred potential, without losing its own shape. Carl Jung wrote, "You are not here to heal the world. You are here to remember the soul." And when the empath remembers their own soul, the transformation begins. They no longer mistake sensitivity for sacrifice. They no longer chase brokenness. They no longer build temples out of other people's wounds. Instead, they carry their light without burning. They hold space without drowning. They love without leaving themselves behind. This is the empath, initiated, not fragile, but forged. Not a savior, but a mirror of soul. And that mirror lives in still water. Picture it, a lake at dawn, smooth, silent, infinite. In the center, a single mirror floats. No ripple, no distortion, only reflection. Not of pain, not of need, but of truth. And this, now, is your invitation. If you've seen yourself in these words, if you've felt the weight, the collapse, the exhaustion and now the return, then you're already walking this path. A path not of martyrdom but of mastery. And we walk it together. So if you're ready to keep going into the depths, into the dark, into the light beyond it, then subscribe to this channel. Not just to listen, but to remember, this is not an ending. It is a beginning.